You were a Paralympian and participant in the 2012 Paralympics in London. And explain to us what goalball is.
Yeah, so goalball, it's a Paralympic sport for visually impaired and blind. It's played over a court the same size as a volleyball court. So it's 80 meters long, 9 meters wide. The 9 meters is the whole baseline of the goal, and that's a goal. So it's primarily made up of three aside, three players working as a team to defend your goal and also attack the other team's goal. The easiest way to think of it is everyone's blindfolded. It's a little bit of a cross between dodgeball, that you can't cross a certain point, and you're being a goalkeeper at the same time. The ball is the same size as a basketball, but weighs 1.25 kilos, with bells inside, obviously. So being all blindfolded, you can't see the ball. So we work off our other senses like hearing to be able to stop it. And you primarily stop it with your body. So you put your body in front of the ball to block it. You get that ball and you try to get it back to the other side as quick as possible, really, and try to score the goal. Aim of the game is team with the most goals wins at the end.
How fast is this ball going? Because it must be quite, like, especially when you first start out in this sport, you must feel a bit nervous to want to instinctively cover your face because you got the visor on and this ball's coming flying at you.
Yeah, you got to have something wrong with you to play it. I don't understand. Like, if I was a bit older, like, you just got to enjoy getting hit by balls for some reason. Pardon the pun. But it's like, so I think the quickest shot in the world was about 80 kilometers an hour.
Fucking hell.
By a little Chinese guy, totally blind. He could just like rotate on the spot and launch that ball like a shotgun at you. So yeah, so when you start off,
did you ever have the pleasure of playing with this man?
I had a pleasure of playing against him, and yeah, I got knocked right in the throat.
Damn.
From it, and I'm like trying to communicate to my team, and like no volume was coming out of my mouth. Yeah.
So what's the road leading up to the 2012 Paralympics? Like, when did you first become aware of this sport?
So my journey to the Paralympics was slightly different from a normal athlete, because I didn't know about this sport until 2010. I was on a camping holiday with some friends, Skegness, you know, Corby Standard classic. And I get a phone call from one of the talent searchers for the Paralympics. At this stage, I had no idea about the Paralympics. I wasn't really fussed. So I take a phone call, and it's the talent scout for Goalball for the GB squad, and they ask if I want to come down to a training camp just to see what the sport is. My first thing was like, what's the sport? Rocked up, played a bit. They asked me to come back again. And then from July 2010, it was a 2-year stint to the Paralympics in 2012, where I just learnt the sport and became good at it, really, to be able to compete and represent GB at the Paralympics.
Looking at the sport when I was doing a little bit of research for this, it strikes me as one of those activities that's easy to participate in recreationally, but very difficult to master.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of like technical things that is really easy to do at like recreational, like you said. So you can put on your blindfold, lie on the floor, get hit by a ball, or try to dive after a ball. But then when you get like international wise, it's a lot of tactics. So there's like slowing the game down, manipulating the pace of the game, using different shots. So you got like bounce shots, swerves, rotations, smooths. So there's lots of like little details that you get when you get older in the game, and you get to master, which can take time to do unless you're a freak and you're able to do it really quickly, which I definitely wasn't. So I had to learn and study the game a bit.
Yeah, there was one video I watched in particular, and one thing that fascinates me about the sport, because it is predominantly ear, hand, what do they call it, coordination.
Yeah,
And your senses are like any other muscle in your body. It's something that can be fine-tuned. It's something that can be developed over time. And in this particular video, you could hear that the audience, participants who had clearly had children with them, were quite noisy. So it's very difficult for a participant in that sport to have to try and distinguish the sound of that ball coming at them with a noisy audience. And you're fine-tuning your senses to know exactly where that ball is going to be, how fast it's coming, and also the pain of, like yourself, getting hit in the throat with it. There's a lot of things to put into consideration.
yeah. That is one of the hardest things, because as it's a relatively unknown Paralympic sport, so you can get away with going to tournaments and you have maybe 3 people and a guide dog sitting in the stands, and they're normally quite well behaved. There's not much speaking. You go to a major event like a World Championships or Europeans or a Paralympics, you've got some really excited people that want to get to know what the sport is, but they don't know the etiquette, and that's what's expected of the crowd. So you train to tune your ears to be able to basically tune into the ball. So you kind of block everything out around you from the lines, and you're just inside the lines, and you're just engrossed.
See,
Did you
like,
find? Oh, sorry, Benny.
it's alright. See, getting used to playing with your eyes, like with basketball, for so many years, was it hard to get used to the ear side of hearing? Do you know what I mean? Like getting used to that side of things.
Yeah, I thought it would have been. So I thought it would have been harder, because I played a lot of like sighted sports, and I used my eyes in a lot of sports. And then to just put something over my eyes to completely black it out, and then just depend on my ears and my feel. I thought it was going to be really difficult. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it looked like I was flapping around on the floor like a fish. But then you realize that everyone else is blindfolded around you. You get the embarrassment taken away from it,
Yeah.
and you just then think of it. How can I get better? And then you listen to the coaches, and you learn what to do, and it comes quite quickly. The whole, oh, I'm blindfolded. I can't see something. I don't know if it's going to hit me yet.
Yeah.
And then you get hit, and you're like, oh, it wasn't actually that sore. Let's carry on.
What's the ball made of?
The ball
Hard
is
steel. Sorry.
Straight up steel. No, it's made of vulcanized rubber. So it's like a hollowed out hockey puck.
All right, so kind of plasticky.
Yeah. So you can manipulate the ball. So like at the start of a game, the ball can be like really, really solid and like hard to move around. By the end of it, normally after you like warm the ball up a bit, you can manipulate the ball, so you can squeeze it to get you like an extra couple kilometers an hour out of the ball, because you can just pile it down the court.
So the training with Goalball, especially when you're doing it internationally with the Olympics, I understand that obviously doing the sport itself is a way to get better at it, but were there any actual specific exercises?
Yeah, so to improve my coach, he was the former Germany coach for 20 years, Knut Kasave. He was a big believer in always being able to train wherever you are. So whenever I was at home, wear your blindfold, wear your eye shades around your house, because you should always know where everything is in your own home. So then you get to learn how to move.
It's a good way to get sense of direction, isn't it?
Sense of direction, and freedom of space. So you know you're not going to get hurt inside your own home a lot of the time. And you know where the expensive things are through memory.
Yeah.
Like, say, for instance, you turn your lights off at night and you walk up the stairs. It's like, well, everyone can do that.
Yeah.
But
That's
it's
just muscle memory, innit?
Yeah, and it's just taking it to the next level. So the more comfortable you are under your eye shades, the more comfortable you are going to be on court, and the more reliable you're going to be for your teammates.
It's counting steps as well, knowing how far something is, 3 steps, 4 steps, 5 steps, and sort of drilling that into your head, like walking around your house completely blindfolded, knowing exactly how far your bedside table is, how far the front door is. You know, eventually you kind of become a master of your environment without having to see it. Like you mentioned, when the lights are off at home, I struggle. You know, I walk around my house every day, but as soon as you turn the lights off, you know, I'm stumbling all over the place. And one interesting thing I came across was that there's also a blind football, blind soccer.
Yeah.
And my dad told me about this. I couldn't find any footage of it, but I'm pretty sure it did happen, where you had professional footballers participate in blind football, and the actual sight impaired athletes just ran rings around them, because we take it for granted, don't we, our ability to see.
Yeah, those blind footballers, they can move around a football pitch. Like, so their blind football was played on like a 5-a-side pitch, so it's a little bit smaller, but like there's walls, so they can't just go running off. But yeah, like they move so well, especially with the ball at their feet. And a lot of the time, they've got sighted goalkeepers in blind football as well, so they can direct them where to go.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. How was it then? What was the atmosphere like coming into the 2012 Olympics? Because I'm living in Weymouth, and Weymouth was quite big in 2012 for the sailing Olympics, and the buzz was real because there's people from all over the place coming to this little town. You had athletes from all over the world, para athletes from all over the world coming over. What was it like in Corby?
In Corby, in the run-up. So in the run-up to the Olympics, so I was training for the Paralympics. For the run-up to the Olympics, Corby actually held host to the Jamaican and Israeli swimming team at the swimming pool. So I actually got to train with them in the gym, and they were buzzed around it. I mean, like 2012 was crazy. The Queen came on a jubilee to the swimming pool because like it was Olympic year and it was her jubilee. Got to meet her before it, and like anywhere I went, you could just see like Union flags flying. Everyone was getting ready for it. Merch was in every shop.
Crazy. I remember you got to fly the torch down the Jubilee Avenue.
Yeah. I got I was lucky enough to actually run with the torch through Corby Town Centre. I thought I got like the prime street because it was right in the middle of town.
What was the prime street then?
No, I thought that was the prime street, like straight through the middle of town, Elizabeth Street.
Yeah, it had to be. There was a lot of people there. I can't imagine anyone. I can't imagine people down Danesholm like with a crowd like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, like all the other ones, they were like running down, like through the little villages and stuff, and I got to do my hometown through the main street, through the town centre. That was pretty cool. Yeah, that was really cool.
I bet you felt like a rock star, man.
Well, I don't know if you'll ever see it because there is a video on YouTube of me running, and I put my hand out to try to like high five the crowd.
Yeah.
And no one high fived me back. I got aired so badly, and I felt like stopping and just going, "Oh no!"
But you get away with that because of the circumstances. No one's laughing at you about that. You are legally blind.
Yeah, but I put my hand. It was just the whole thing of like, right, someone's gonna high five me. Everyone's cheering. Put my hand out. No one's doing it. How long do I hold my hand out for?
It could be worse. I mean, I've seen a clip of Jeremy Corbyn trying to high five another MP, and he accidentally slapped the chest. So it could always be worse.
That was hilarious.
But I'll tell you a funny story about that summer 2012 in Weymouth. So there's a place in Weymouth called Dusk, and there were athletes from all over the world from various from the sailing teams, and I bumped into the Spanish sailing team, and they had this skipping rope out, and everyone was getting drunk and all that. And this was me at the peak of my parkour career, and people doing like diving handstands over the skipping rope, and I did like a side flip over it. And the Spanish guy was going crazy for it. He was like, oh, next thing you know, we're getting drunk together. And I got very drunk, and so did he. There's photographic proof of this. I'll send it to you on Instagram. And then the next day, I'm hungover, and I'm just sat on my living room couch watching the sailing games happen, which were happening like 200 feet away from my house. And I could just see like the Spanish guy like dead last. And I'm thinking, that's my claim to fame. I'm the reason the Spanish lost the sailing games. I mean, the females did all right, but the guys didn't. So,
thank you, Dan.
He's doing his bit for the country.
Yeah.
That was my honor. It was great. We have a pub. I think you've been here before, Benny. It's called The Cove, and it's on Chesil Beach. And that place was just alive that summer. You had people playing instruments. You had people just getting drunk on the beach, having a good time. The weather was good. And
just missed it, man.
I'll never forget that. Yeah, you'd come in the July, and this was all happening sort of end of July, August time.
Yeah.
And the place was alive, and it will never be that. It will never be the same again. You always have good summers, but nothing compares to 2012 summer.
The 2012 summer was amazing. Like, because I was out of camp a lot of the time during the Olympics, I could go down and watch it. And I remember I went down to Hyde Park because they had a huge event. They had like loads of like big screens that you could watch. And I went down to watch Super Saturday when Jess Ennis, Greg Rutherford, and Mo Farah all won their gold medals. And they had like a little part in Hyde Park called the Golden Circle, which was any GB athletes from any sport. Say, like, it could be in winters, a lot of like winter athletes were there, and all you had to do was flash your accreditation and you'd be allowed in, and you get like free drinks and stuff like that. But like watching all three of them win their gold medals in that park, and it was like it went mental. There was like 100,000 people in that park.
Yeah, I watched it in my living room, but that was awesome, man. That.
How did the British team get on then? How did you guys get on in the end?
That was actually a good year for us, I think we did good in the cycling.
Yeah, we did.
Indoor and outdoor. Didn't the rowing team win?
Yeah, the rowing team. So I think it was like the most medal haul in the Olympics, and definitely the most medal haul in the Paralympics. I think we came second in the total medals in the Paralympics, behind China. But China, they've got 2 million disabled people in the Paralympics in China, so they've got a really good talent pool.
They have the numbers.
Yeah, they've got the numbers, and they get their athletes in early, and they're training. GB wise in Goalball, we didn't do too great. We were very much a young team, and we were there for the experience of being there.
Yeah,
I think we finished. I think on the rankings we finished like 10th out of 12, so not that great.
Still top 10, baby.
Yeah.
I always find that the country of origin of the sport tends to be the dominator in the sport. So Goalball originated from Austria, Germany, West Germany. So I'm assuming, are they the best at the sport?
So Germany are up there. Germany are definitely up there. I've got a few friends that play for the German team, and I would put my money on them. This in 2021, it's meant to be 2020 Tokyo Paralympics. I'd put my money on them to win the gold. But the really dominant teams is like the Eastern European teams or like the Northern European teams. Like Finland's a really good team. Lithuania, they're really good as well. Brazil have put a lot of money into their team. Brazil have a really strong chance of winning, I'd say as well. But Germany, I'd love to see them, because mainly they're my friends. So
yeah, it's interesting looking at when I was doing a bit of research on the sport. The origins of it came about in 1946 as a form of rehabilitation for World War II veterans.
Yeah, and
then it was eventually recognized. It started to grow and become more competitive in the 1950s and 60s, and was finally recognized as a sport. I can't remember the term. I'll just look at my notes just because there's a term that they use where a demonstration sport. That's what I was looking for. It was a demonstration sport in 1972 in the Summer Paralympics in West Germany before finally making it to Toronto in 1976.
Yeah. So yeah, it was. Yeah, it's one of the founding sports in the Paralympic movement. I've got a funny story about that actually. I was doing some media training back in 2011 at a holding camp for like a year to go sort of camp, and one of my teammates, someone asked him what is goalball, and he said, "Oh, it's a sport for the war criminals from World War II. I mean, no, war veterans." So he was like, "Yeah. So if you're a war criminal, you just get blindfold put on you, and you get told to lie down and take a ball."
It is a clever sport, though. Looking at it, it's basic, but it is very difficult.
I think all sports based around trust of that is a smart sport in it, really, because trust is teamwork, building, tactics, all that stuff.
Definitely, and it's a perfect rehabilitation sport for if a person loses their sight.
Yeah.
Because they're put into a situation that there's nothing in front of them apart from a team, but you can't run into the other team, and you learn how to move as a blind person and how to trust your body.
Yeah.
So how do you move then? So do you start on the side or do you start already in position? Because I notice there's a lot of sliding going along and people are laying on their sides.
So there's a lot of sliding. The easiest way to think of it is you've got three positions. You've got a center and two wings. The court is actually laid down with string and tape so we can feel where we are. So the court's kind of like raised. So the lines that you see, it isn't just like painted down lines. They're taped and they have a little bit of string inside the tape so you can feel it. So you can orientate yourself because the center line is slightly bigger than the wing lines. So you know where you are.
So yeah, the first World Championship was in Austria in 1978.
Yeah.
And no, you're gonna have to say that. Oh, fuck that one.
No, I didn't know too much about. I didn't know too much about the history of it.
Yeah, there was blindness, how it came about, and tell us a story about that. Then, because I know I understand your old man had it anyway, so it might have been a genetic thing, and your older brother, Alistair.
Yeah, both brothers. Yeah.
So tell us a bit about then the blindness, and when did you start to notice?
So when I was younger, I thought I was sighted, just had to have glasses. Then we went away on holiday one year to Fuerteventura or wherever it might be. And my dad tried to flag down a taxi. Turned out it was a police car. And he thought the colours were weird. So he was like, "Oh, no, it's blue. No, and it turned out it was green." So my dad went and got his eyes checked after the holiday. And he got registered blind straight away when he went and got his eyes checked.
Oh, straight away.
Yeah, so this is a man who spent 17 years in the army, had a driver's license, to be turned and told round, you are registered blind. Did you drive?
All that pretty much got taken away from him.
Yes. So he was like, "Yeah, I drove here though." He was like, "Okay, someone has to come and pick you up." Okay, right. That's fine. So we got on with that, and then we thought, oh, we'll get our kids checked. So my dad thought we'll get my two brothers and me, but all checked, and they were like, "There's no chance of your kids having a visual impairment." All three of us got it.
So what's the name of the condition?
So the conditions changed over the years, like name, because it was such a new condition. Genetic retina macular dystrophy.
Right.
Sounds about right.
So there's like a breakdown in the back of your eye, because obviously, from what I understand about sight, is that the light comes in and it sort of reflects back and obviously goes to the optic nerve and the brain deciphers it.
Yeah. So if you think of at the back of your eye, you've got maculas. And a healthy macula, I can never remember which way around it is. A healthy macula is either orange or, healthy macula is orange because that's taken in the light. My maculas and my brothers and my dad's, they're black. So the light just can't get through. So that means my acuities, my acuity. So like the details and stuff I see, I can't. So I have about 8% vision, between 5 to 8% vision working.
All right. I mean, what is that like psychologically to have to, accept that?
I didn't accept it when I was a kid. I didn't think anything was wrong with me. Hence why growing up in school with you guys, I always sat with you guys. Like we sat at the back a lot of the time, didn't we?
Pretty much.
We sat away, so I couldn't ever see like any boards or anything when I was a kid.
So secretly you relied on relied on us. But you didn't tell us.
I relied fully on someone maybe writing something down, or someone or sometimes the teachers would give me.
Way, I used to always think you were looking at my ass.
Well, you got a peachy one.
Yeah.
People used to say I have a cute ass.
We spoke about this in a previous podcast. We talked about when I vandalized his book and wrote stuff like Benny's got a cute bum and all that, and he got in a lot of trouble from his English teacher. And he's like, "Well, it's my book. I do what I want."
Yeah.
My cute ass.
At the end of the year, you keep that.
Yeah, I used to just pretend like nothing was wrong, but I used to have to go to eye appointments like every sort of like 3-4 months to go see my ophthalmologist to see like how my eyes were, and they were like, "Yeah, you're registered blind." But I didn't tell teachers or anything until I was maybe older, like 16, 17.
So by the time you finished school, how bad was it by this point? What percentage are we talking about?
I don't know, because to me, I guess I've always had that sort of level, because it didn't feel like it got any worse. And I just adapted to what was around me. So it didn't feel like anything was worse because I knew something was there. And because of my memory, knowing, say, for instance, I was playing basketball, I knew something was there. I knew the hoop was there. So I pictured it in my mind, and my mind kind of projected the image in front of me.
It's like you're almost like you're ready for Goalball, because you'd already had to kind of adapt anyway with basketball, like you just said, knowing where the hoop was, knowing distances, knowing how far away people were, and it's kind of a good little segue into that Goalball sport.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was like a good progression, even though I didn't know what it was. But as a kid, I was like, yeah, I want to compete, and they were like, yeah, cool, I can compete here. And it's something that I've done my whole life, is adapt. And that's the thing about being a kid with a visual impairment or a kid with a disability. It's about how you can adapt and how you don't let anything stop you, and you act normal. Because if you act like something's wrong, something's wrong. If you act like you're different. If you don't, you just cope.
It's a good attitude to have. Well, I've got 2 questions for you that I just thought of. The first one is like, how did you feel once this hype had died down post 2012? Like once this sort of dust had settled and people sort of moved on to the next thing, it must have been a bit of a low point for a lot of people.
I wasn't in the Olympics and I was depressed.
Yeah, so I felt a little bit like once the September, October started kicking in, I was like, oh yeah, it's kind of gone quiet now.
When the last Russell Howard's good news come on about the Olympics, I was kind of like, I think a tear came down my face. I'm sure.
I mean,
it happens, man.
If I can't speak for like the Olympians, because they're the ones that get put on the pedestal. Yeah. For the Paralympians, it felt like the broken toy got taken off the shelf during the Paralympics. The broken toy was played with and was looked after. Then after the Paralympics, it was just chucked in the corner. You were the broken toy with no eyes, or the broken toy with one leg. Like,
isn't that when, do you know that show, how was it, Adam
Last Leg?
Yeah, didn't that come out around about the same time?
It started as a recap show of the Paralympics.
That's what I mean. So didn't that kind of shone a bit of light on it?
It did, but then they kind of moved into like the mainstream comedy side of things, I think.
Yeah, they did it at the end of it, but
yeah. My favorite clip is Johnny Vegas and the outtakes, just going off on one between the promos, and he just go. I mean, I can't do it justice. I just recommend anyone type in The Last Leg Johnny Vegas, and you'll be in for a treat. The second question I was going to ask you is, how come you didn't participate in the 2016 Paralympics?
We didn't qualify.
Oh.
Main thing. So goalball is the second most populated sport the second most Paralympic populated team sport, behind wheelchair basketball. So in Europe, so it's split up into regions. The top teams the top 4 teams from the world qualifiers qualify for the Paralympics. The top 3 teams from the World Championships qualify, and then that leaves 1 spot from each region to qualify. And you've got, I think there's 45 teams in Europe that are like vying to qualify for the Paralympics every 4-year cycle. And you get split into leagues. We're the only region that has to be split into leagues because there's so many teams. So you get like C, B, and A, and we were in C League at the time, so we weren't that high up. So we couldn't have qualified.
You got to be in B League.
You got to be in A to be able to qualify. So yeah, you have to win the European A League Championships to qualify for the Paralympics. And we were like two leagues away. So yeah,
it's kind of Eddie the Eagle that kind of spoiled it for everyone, wasn't it? Because up until then, like anyone could, like if there was no positions taken up, anyone could just kind of show up to the sport.
Yeah.
And then Eddie Eagle comes along, and then it was like, oh no, we got to put in like a minimum requirement of some sort.
So that was something like that happened in goalball. So apparently back before I started, for like the qualification for, I think it was qualification for Beijing, that was in Quebec. You had, any team could enter their name in to qualify for Quebec, qualify for Beijing, sorry. So I think there was like 30, 40, 50 teams rocking up. And there was like Chinese Taipei trying to qualify, or Taiwan that's just thrown together a team to try to qualify.
Yeah.
It was like, so then they put in the rules of like only these teams can qualify, go to the qualification tournament. So
the thing is, as I get older as well, like, I mean, I never want to take anything away from any athletes because I know it means a lot to them and their families and the community. But as I get older, I start to learn there's a lot of shady business that goes on behind these international events. Like, you know, I watch a documentary. One of my favorite documentaries is called Icarus. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
And it's based on a man named Brian Fogel, who was an amateur cyclist. But he manages to get in contact with a man named Gregory Rodchenkov, who was like, I'm trying to think of the position that he was in, but he was the Anti-Doping Association in Russia.
Yeah.
And then obviously around that same time that documentary is being made is when the whistle's blowing on the doping scandal in Russia. This was around 2014. And it made me realize just how politicized these international sports can be.
100%, man.
There's a lot of politics involved with, like, I remember, especially like even government politics, 2 teams got drawn against each other. I think it was like Algeria against like Iran or someone similar, got drawn against each other in the Paralympics, and they refused to play against each other because of conflict.
Conflict between countries, or
conflict between countries, and they just were like, no, I'm not doing it.
Remember in the Olympics, the badminton, the Chinese, they were throwing games so they get easier opponents for the next round.
Yeah, they got disqualified for unsportsmanlike.
Oh yeah, but that's nuts, man.
Yeah, but it's like what you said, Dan, about like the politics and stuff. It was so close to the Paralympics in 2016 not happening. I don't know if you know about this. The Rio Olympics was so over budget, they used some of the Paralympics budget, and they spent all the Paralympics money.
Oh.
Wow.
And they had like nothing left in the pot. So it was nearly the Rio Paralympics didn't happen because the Paralympic Association had to take the Olympic Association to court to get the money back.
That's crazy, man.
It's not without it's not without its controversy. Like me being in Weymouth where the sailing games happened, you get a perspective of how much money is poured into these events. You guys won't be familiar with this, but in Weymouth, like we had these roundabouts at certain points near the town centre, and for about a year and a half, all these works were going on. And the way the road infrastructure is designed in Weymouth, it's terrible enough as it is. And they tore out these roundabouts and replaced them with these smart traffic lights. And these traffic lights are still there to this day, and they were put in there for the Olympics, and it's an absolute disaster.
At an event in 2013, and being out there was talk about how 15 people died building the arena in one day.
15 in one day.
15 in like one day, and it was so close as well to the Olympics and Paralympics just getting taken off Brazil because they had to improve that sort of stuff. And if it got taken off Brazil, it went back to London because it reverted back to the previous host.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, but I still can't get over the fact you're saying that they're stealing money from the Paralympic team. That's awful. It's like, why? I mean, I know a lot of money goes into these things. I know, and like they go over budget, they go behind schedule, whatever it is. Makes me wonder like how much of a spanner in the works it's been because of the pandemic, having to postpone these international events a year or two.
I think I've spoken to a few athletes that have qualified for the Paralympics, and well, I call it the Paralympics 2020 because that's still the branding they use, because I don't think they can afford to rebrand it.
What, to 2021?
Well, all those posters add up, all those T-shirts and merchandise. Same with Star Wars. Apparently, why George Lucas changed it from Revenge of the Jedi to Return of the Jedi was that by getting rid of that one extra letter, he saved a fortune on the merch and posters, on the printing.
Yeah. So I know the Olympics is definitely going ahead, and I think there's still up in the air with the pandemic because people with disabilities are at a higher risk to catch the virus, but hopefully with like more athletes being vaccinated and stuff that they should be, it should go ahead. And I think Japan have got quite a good hold on the virus.
Yeah, I think most of they've already had they had this before back in 2003. You had South Korea, Japan, and certain parts of Southeast Asia with the original SARS virus.
Just well more organised, didn't they?
They're more organised, and their culture is a lot of respect as well.
Yeah, so, hygiene and
I mean, we've probably laughed for years about like
how they wear masks and stuff.
The Asian population wearing masks, and now we're like, okay, we can understand it now.
Yeah,
that's it. Like moving forward, like if I'm ill in a year or two's time, like from now on, if I'm got the flu and I'm ill and I'm out of the house, I'll wear a mask when I'm around people. And it won't be seen as weird anymore. That was seen as weird just over a year ago.
And if you were ill and wore a mask. That's you protecting others from you.
Yeah.
And that's what people need to remember as well. It's like you're protecting others from you.
Exactly, yeah.
So another question I got for you is like, so what's your future now with Goalball? Like, are you done with it? Are you retired? Or are you thinking about? Because I suppose there's a age limit when it gets a bit too, on the knees and the joints and whatnot.
Yeah,
we're getting into our 30s now.
Yeah, I'm 30 at the end of this year.
Nice.
I tell you what. 30 in October. I have retired from international play. I still play domestically. I play with a team called Phoenix Blaze. We play in the National League in the UK. But then, like, part of me feels like, do I still have a bit in the tank? Do I have unfinished business? Can I get myself motivated to play again?
That's
maybe
the spirit now.
Maybe, but then it's politics. Can I be bothered to
train?
I've got a child on the way.
Oh, nice one, man!
Congratulations.
Cheers. My wife's due next month, actually.
Nice one.
Yeah. So it's like, do I really want to put time and effort into a sport where I can be when I've achieved a lot in that sport, or do I want to then prepare a future for my child?
And being away from home and all that, it can be quite taxing. So tell us a little bit about your life, getting married and all that, because it's been so long since I last seen you.
Yeah, so I've been married coming up to, I got married in 2018 to my wife Mary. She does a cool job. She's a digital forensics analyst.
Oh yeah.
So she's
Is that
like
cool or is it disgusting? I don't know.
a bit of both, really.
Yeah.
Bit of both. It's like kind of cool that she does stuff like she catches criminals, like, or she can defend people because it's
Like
private.
Dexter without the serial killer tendencies.
Because the computerized side of things. So it's all like
not the blood
cyber
splatter
security.
side. Yeah.
Not the blood splatter. So yeah, I met her back in 2015. You know, the standard way that we meet people these modern days through Tinder.
Oh, fair play.
Yeah.
Tinder's always a difficult one, though, isn't it? It's always, well, we'll talk about Tinder later, but carry on.
Oh, mate, it's you get some weird people on Tinder back in the day. But yeah, I met Mary. It just so happens she was at university in Leicester. I was over in Corby, and yeah, we just hit it off. Like we got married within 3 years, and yeah.
So what's with the name change then? Because obviously the introduction that won't be in this now is like me trying to introduce you, and I've got the last name wrong. So what's with the name change?
Yeah, so Mary's attached to her surname. So I was previously Niall Graham, and now I'm Niall Geddes. So my initials have stayed the same, but her family, Sean touched on it, her family is a massive Star Wars fans. And I'm a massive Star Wars fans. So their nickname is the Geddes.
I love that.
So I went from being a Graham to a Geddes. And
that might have made me maybe change my last name. Maybe a little bit.
Well, it's quite common in certain cultures. So, and I think it's becoming more and more of a thing. You got
but you'd become a fucking Geddes, you know it.
Oh yeah. You'd love to just like whip out a lightsaber and just go, I use the Force.
Yeah.
Well, technically, yeah, you use the Force, didn't you? With Goalball, you know, you got to tap into those other senses.
Yeah, I mean, like
midichlorians and all that shit.
And it's as well. It's like breaking down the stereotype as well. Like men rule this world. They don't. Men do not rule this world anymore. Our great women behind us help us rule the world, and they rule the world for us.
And why do we need to change names? Like my girlfriend, we've been together a year and a half, and I'm guessing she wants to get married at some point. I'm thinking, I like her last name. Why change it?
What's her last name?
Well, believe it or not, her name is Rachel Riley, the same name as the Countdown lady. So, swear to God, right? And I'm thinking, that's a nice name, Rachel Pike. That sounds weird. Just keep it as Rachel Riley.
Dan Riley?
No, my last name's I've grown attached to my last name, so I ain't changing that.
Dan Riley sounds like a good UFC fighter.
Sounds like a convict that's just come out and realised the pandemic's going on.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So, well, I mean, I know she's always going to change her last name because, you know, I ain't going to have that debate with her. But I'm just thinking, do you have to change your last name? Can you just keep it? Yeah, because there's a lot of actors.
You don't even have to get married, man.
Oh yeah, well, you know.
I mean, I'm all for marriage because it's that commitment.
I'm not against it. I'm just saying people go through life having a partner without getting married, don't they?
You're just a cynical single person. I'm joking.
No.
That's all good, man. When you meet the one, you meet the one. You'll know. You'll just know.
Just ain't there yet, man.
And that's the saying, isn't it? When you know, you know.
I know, and I used to think it was a cliche. You know, I met my girlfriend when I was 27, and like I get on with her so well. Like she's a funny person. Like any relationship, you have your little debates here and there, but she is up until that point, I was so skeptical. I was like, there's no way. I've dated loads of women, whether it be through Tinder, whether it just be through mutual acquaintances, and it just never works out in the long term. So I thought I became cynical of the idea of long-term relationships, and then the right one comes along, and you're like, oh, I'm actually up for this.
Yeah, I mean, I got that like the when you know from my goalball coach. He got married, and this is a weird story, right? So he met his wife. She was a physio for the GB women's goalball team, and he was the head coach for the German men's team at the time. He met her. They went on 2 dates, and they were engaged. 6 weeks later, they were engaged. Like 2 months later, they were married.
My mum and dad got married after 3 months of knowing each other.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. They weren't right for each other, but without that, I wouldn't be here. So
there you go. My mum and dad got married for 3 weeks and then got divorced, and without that, I wouldn't have been here.
the butterfly effect,
Yeah.
cause and
Yeah.
effect, change
I
one
think-
little detail.
I think my parents were like that back in the day. They were like, my mum was like 17 and my dad was like 20, and they were married and had a kid before my mum was like 19.
Yeah.
So
Crazy times back then, man. I
yeah,
think that's what it's like these days. Like my nephew's baby mum was that young when she had him, so
yeah.
runs.
It's a
Yeah.
weird one. Sorry.
My whole thing is I wanted to have a child before I was 30, because you know how you don't want to be one of those older dads who you want to like kick a ball with your son or daughter.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm having, so we
Are you keeping
didn't
it secret till birth, yeah?
we didn't find out, so
Oh,
we have no idea.
nice
These
surprise.
gender reveal ceremonies are getting a bit out of hand, though, aren't they? Like originally, it started off with like a little party popper thing that goes off with the either color blue or color pink. And I've seen a few of these videos on Instagram, and you see the grown man break down crying because he realizes he's going to have a daughter, he's going to have a son. And I'm thinking that's nice, but apparently, like someone died recently trying to set off like a firework display that was going to be a gender reveal, and it just backfired and killed the dad.
With
So
the
I'm like,
American,
yeah, well, probably. And I was like, calm down with this shit, just.
I'm like probably like you guys. You see them on Instagram, you like if you see like their daughter going like, oh, I'm gonna have a brother. That's like, oh, that's really sweet, but I'm not a fan of them because you got to tell someone
I wonder
beforehand.
how long it took them to rehearse it.
Yeah, like you look more shocked.
Yeah.
Right, take it from the top.
But what would you prefer? Like just top of your head.
Honestly,
Doesn't matter.
a healthy baby.
Oh, that's fair enough.
That's a good answer.
This
That is a
baby's
good
going to be
answer.
long.
It's going to be long. It's going to be healthy. It's going to play basketball and goalball. It's
Well,
going to be a
that's the thing.
Jedi.
It's like Mary, my wife. She's 6'3",
Oh, so
and I'm 6'6".
the tallest
So-
runs in the family.
Yeah, well, it already does. So we have like the measuring chart when the midwife comes round because we're having a home birth, so they come to us.
Yeah.
So the midwife is like plotted where the baby is on the chart, and like there's a line that's like the 79th percentile, and that's like the line there, and the baby's like up here.
I reckon she'll be one of those children that like is the growth thing doesn't start kicking in until they're like 13, 14, just out of nowhere they're ginormous height wise. I know.
No, because we were both really tall kids.
Oh,
Like,
okay, fair enough.
Mary was like 6 foot when she hit secondary school, and same with me.
No, he was 6 foot in the juniors, man.
Do you know a kid? Do you know a kid called Andrew Cameron?
No.
Does that ring a bell? Well, he was a friend of mine growing up, and his dad was something like 6'5", 6'6", and all the kids in the family, including Andrew, like they were like really short for their age. And then I didn't see him for a couple of years, and out of nowhere, the guy's like 6'4" in
Oh,
height.
wow.
I'm like, just came out of nowhere.
I tell you who you might not know is tall now from when we were in school. Do you remember? Can we say names?
You can say that last name.
Yeah, is it McIntyre?
Mm-hmm. Oh, right, yeah, I remember him being quite short. Yeah.
He's like 6'3" or 6'2" now.
Wow.
Is he?
Yeah,
Wait.
but that's gross. But hit him when he was like 20.
People don't realize how
Nice.
painful it is growing, because I was in year 7, I was 5 foot tall, and then year 7 I was 5 foot tall, but from year 7 to year 9 I went to 5'10", and it hurts. It really hurts. Like you get the shin splints feelings, everything, your bones ache, your muscles ache,
Your
and you think
back's
nothing of it at the
killing,
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Your hamstrings kill. Yeah,
Your knees, man. I got in the knees the worst.
yeah.
I get in the hips. Like I was telling you yesterday, I went to a stereophonics thing last March, and just being stood there for 3 hours killed my hips. I don't know what you're like at concerts, Niall, or if you go to them, but it hurts standing around too long.
One of the last things I went to was like Glastonbury a few years ago, and my knees and my back was just so sore.
With Glastonbury, though, you do get to move around a little bit in Glastonbury.
Yeah, you do.
But this one specific concert where it's like you're going to see one band, it was like, oh, I was dying. It was the most pain I'd ever been in my life.
You kind of feel like packed in like a sardine as well sometimes. Like
Yeah.
if you go to like a good gig.
Yeah, and the whole pandemic thing was hanging over our heads by this point. Lockdown hadn't happened yet, but by this point it was rife in Italy. And
Yeah.
you could just, even though people were still going to concerts, you could just sense it in the air that people weren't too cool with being in, like, I don't know how many people were in this. Just on the floor part, it must have been at least 1,000, and then there was obviously seats at the top.
Yeah, that's got to be so. That's got that.
It was
I
big.
remember.
It was
I
the
remember
big.
like pre lockdown and stuff. I hopped on a train. I just felt so exposed.
Yeah.
Like, something's gonna happen. Like, not like it's gonna, like, something happen to the train, but like something's gonna happen to me. I'm gonna get ill.
Yeah.
Back then, we thought it was like the Black Plague back then.
Yeah.
I know it's still severe for vulnerable people, but it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be.
Yeah,
In
I
terms
mean,
of
like, my mum got it, and she had the first dose of the vaccine, and she just had like a sore throat for the couple of weeks. So it is manageable, like, now, but to some people it can be really bad. Like the guy we went to school with, I don't know if you know, he was struck up in hospital.
Yeah, I heard about him, and
Aaron.
he did. He does have he does fall into that category of vulnerable people because of I don't know if it was heart problems or lung complications, but
I think
yeah.
he had like a lung thing, didn't he?
But is he okay? Is he all right now?
I think he's getting stronger now. I don't.
The weird thing about Tinder is like it feels like
Hold on, can I do an impression of what I do when I go on Tinder?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, this is my phone, right?
The problem with Tinder is
that
like,
no or yes?
yeah,
that's just what on everything, mate. Everything.
oh, you just yes to everything. You like Bruce Almighty. Yes, sure.
Throw enough mud at the wall, some will stick.
Yeah. I won't say who intends to. But anyway, move on.
Well, luckily, my current girlfriend was not through Tinder. It was through natural interaction, just bumping.
Yeah, I
into
got rid of that shit,
Yeah.
man. I'd rather meet someone at a bowling alley. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? That's the natural way.
I've just
Well-
pictured Sean like in a bowling alley, like with a name card, like, hello. I'm
Hi,
Sean.
my name's Sean. I'm a 3-year veteran.
The problem with Tinder is like you got to try and sell your entire life story in like a one message synopsis.
Yeah, I ain't got time for that, man.
I just do. I try to keep it basic. I was like, hi, with a little wave, and like you'd obviously get a bunch of men just be like, actually, I'll tell you a funny story.
Bunch of
right?
men? You should
Well,
have went on Grindr.
No. I'm
What
on
was
about
your
like
preferences?
what I'm competing with.
Oh, the men's
yeah.
bios. Yeah.
That I'm competing with. You know, what I mean, like,
Yeah.
I'll just say I'll be pretty modest, and I'm a little bit of a prude, so I just go in with a little hi with a wave, and obviously most men don't do that. They'll be like,
Yeah,
oh, gorgeous.
see if you message girls as well on Tinder and it's just like a hi, how are you? You go back the next day and they're gone.
Yeah. It's
What
like
am I supposed to do? Flap my cock about or something?
The problem with Tinder as well is like it becomes so addictive because you get like that little hit of dopamine when someone accepts you, someone that you see on a superficial level and think, oh, they're attractive, they seem like the kind
they
of person
like
I'm
me.
like. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get that dopamine hit, and next thing you know, you're glued to that phone for 2-3 hours, and sometimes it might not go anywhere. Sometimes it might be like the work pattern doesn't work around you trying to propose a date or whatever it is, and you just wasted 2 weeks just staring at a rectangle in your hand. So that's not how it should be.
I mean, I was like the polar opposite on that, because I think I just like, you can log in via Facebook or something, and I think it took like the description, so like your bio, it just took some pictures from there, and like my bio just said 6'6", basketball coach, Paralympian, and that's all it said.
That
I didn't
sells.
change it.
That sells. Less is more in that case.
And
Yeah.
everyone was like, "You're 6'6". I was like, "Yeah." That was it, and I was so deadpan with it because I was only on it for a laugh,
That worked.
and then I matched with my future wife.
That's good though. It's good how things
Future
like
wife. She is
Well,
your
yeah,
wife.
my current at the time she was my future wife.
Yeah.
She's my current wife now. But it was like we spoke, and then we didn't speak for like 2-3 weeks, and then
playing it cool.
I just didn't use it, and then we started messaging again. I think it was like she wished me a happy birthday, and then arranged a date.
Nice. Where was your first date?
First date with Mary was in Leicester City Centre. I took her to TGI Fridays
Nice.
because I love burgers, and
Good burgers too.
It's decent. It's a decent meal when you were younger. I like now. I'm like I try to stay. I'm like one of those guys that try to stay away from chains. I try to
Yeah.
go to like small businesses, try to support them. But sometimes you just can't beat a TGI Fridays.
No, I get you. And that, funny we mentioned that about the whole chains, like because of Instagram and the birth of the Instagram food influencer that are propping up all these individual chains, these individual businesses, they are getting the coverage that they deserve now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you have someone that has 50,000 followers that just takes pictures of foods at different restaurants, and they even get paid the meal. They might even get paid a little bit of cash just to show up and promote their stuff. It's like that's what I like to see.
Little plug here. If you ever get bored on Instagram and you want to check out Blind Chef, which is me,
I'm gonna write this down.
it's called it's at Don't Need Eyes to Cook.
I like that.
Um,
Don't
I've
need
just got my first brand deal on there as well.
Nice.
With it's a company from Denver called Food for Shirts. So they do like kind of cool T-shirts with like a little bit chefy.
Yeah. Nice
So
one, bro.
what's your thing to cook? Like, what's your preferred thing?
2 minutes, please.
Yeah, man, always.
Yeah, my thing is like Spanish food. I love cooking like Spanish food or like Louisianan cooking, like Cajun cooking. I love Cajun food as well. So like a jambalaya, I love chicken and chorizo jambalaya.
Yeah.
Or like a paella or a paella is what they call it.
Yeah, I ate some of that because I lived in France for a little bit, so I got
Yeah,
into some of their delicacies, and especially when you're in the sort of south part of France, you'll have a lot
mm,
of Spanish influence, you have a lot of Italian influence, and having an actual proper Italian pizza was a game changer for me with the egg in the middle and everything.
yeah. When you have like the Alfonso one or whatever it's called, that's like a nice sort of Italian style with very bare minimum, a little bit of rocket on there, nice extra virgin olive oil. It's just you can't beat it. I got I got to eat pizza in Venice one year when I was with Goalball, and I think that was the best pizza I've ever had in my life.
I like the goat's cheese. I like the black olives. A
Yes.
little bit of peppers. I'm not too keen on mushrooms, but I understand, especially with the pandemic, how good they are, and it's such a good source in vitamin D. I'm going to really try and get into mushrooms.
What I'm doing over the weekend, I'm actually making a mushroom kebab over the weekend.
Yeah, nice.
Jamie Oliver did put on his YouTube, so I kind of like steal recipes from them when I see it. So I'm like, oh, cool, I'll replicate that. It looks pretty cool, and at the moment, I'm trying to lower my meat intake. Um,
You
you know,
thinking of going? You thinking of going vegetarian, are you?
no, I can't go vegetarian. Um, I can I love my red meat too much to go vegetarian.
Mm. I like my chicken. Yeah, I'm a big chicken fan. And what I enjoy, I mean, I'm not a great cook. I mean, I'm still early days, but I am making a lot of effort with certain things and really understanding the art form of it all. I love the trial and error aspect of cooking. So
Mm,
like something as simple as making a curry. The chicken to begin with would be a little bit too chewy or a little bit too dry. So I'd figure that out. I was like, all right, cook it on a lower heat, cook it for longer, you
yeah,
know, mixing up the sauce. And, recently I made my own batch of brownies from a website. I got the recipe off of the BBC website. So I
nice.
went to Tesco's, got all the chocolate, the flour, the eggs and whatnot. And I was nervous doing it, but in the end it was delicious. And it was like, there's so much pride when you've made
Yeah,
that. Like, even if it's awful, like as I'm eating it, I don't know if you're the same, but as I'm eating it, I'm doing like a sort of assessment in my head of like what it needs more of, what I could do less of. And you start to become a bit of a problem solver
yeah,
while cooking. You learn as you do it.
yeah. And again, it's like going all the way back to like growing up. You adapt. So I'm a horrible baker. Don't get me wrong. I'm a horrible baker. Mary is the baker in this household. She can make a good brownie, but she can't cook to save her life. So I do that side of things. And I'm like, if I'm making like a soup or if I'm making I made a lamb shank stew last weekend, and I'm trying my sauce throughout the whole time, and I'm balancing the flavors right, and I'm thinking what can balance that flavor. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll bring in some sweet potatoes to make like roast sweet potato mash because that's nice and savory to go with the sweet. the source might be.
You learn through your mistakes for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And before you know it, it becomes an instinct. Like once you start tasting your sauce as you're making it, or tasting whatever it is you're making, you'll be like, oh, it needs rosemary, or it might need thyme, or it might need creme fraiche, or whatever it might need. Because you're also dealing with chemistry, how to balance out things. I wish I'd paid more attention in chemistry at school. I remember our teacher. I won't say her name, but she resembled her fake name. Well, is based on a fictional character. Well, Triple H and Miss Trunchbull. She kind of had a resemblance to Miss Trunchbull. But in hindsight, I look back and I think, you know what? She was actually a very educated woman, and I feel kind of bad that we were the way we were.
I felt really bad because we were around a house once with some mates, and when you're a kid, you love to prank call a person, and we found her name in the phone book, and we prank called her. And I felt so bad because later on that year, she somehow liked me a lot. She gave me a good luck card from our exams.
Yeah. Well, you were like the innocent one out of that class because, there was a lot of boys in our group for some reason, like in English, and English was an all boys for some reason. I think they were experimenting with it. In science, there was a lot of guys, and not necessarily bad guys, but just guys that in the same entourage, in the same group, we just sort of, this other side of our personality came out.
Guys that lacked attention span, I think we were definitely guys that lacked the attention span to concentrate. I mean, we got through and we did what we had to do, but I think we were in history together, weren't we?
We were in history, and I tell you what, so was Benny. And again, without naming any teachers' names, there were some teachers that I remember. One teacher, he was a substitute. I think he came from Canada, and within 3 weeks, his hair went grey.
Yes, no, he wasn't a substitute. He was a full-time teacher at the start.
Right, because our current history teacher was on sick leave for 3 months.
Yeah, because he got locked in a cupboard, didn't he?
I don't know. It wasn't from our year group. I remember the year below us were absolute degenerates. They just took it too far. We had a bit of humor about our juvenile humor was easy along to get. It was 50-50 with some of the teachers. Some of them went along with it, and we had a good time. Some of them just didn't get us. But the year below were just evil. I wouldn't say evil. Maybe that's a strong word, but they were definitely.
I think the year above us was apparently they're known as the worst school year ever. The year above us.
I can see that. Again, not saying names, but we know there was loads of them. There was dozens.
Oh yeah.
And they were just next level. And so so say what we were.
Time to play the game.
Sorry. The stuff we used to do to that teacher was horrible.
Do you remember the phone prank you done?
Going back to the phone prank. That was in a lesson while she was in the lesson.
That was another time we prank called her. We prank called her in the lesson while she was in the room.
And then the little. Do you remember we had that person who would sit there and I think it was year 7s who done it. You'd answer the phones or something at reception. You'd be the little errand boy or girl.
No, what it was. I remember what it was now. No, it was another teacher who wasn't. She worked in the lab. She wasn't actually a teacher herself, but she worked with all the chemicals and whatnot. And she came in with her Doc Brown coat on. And
it was Jerry, not Jerry. It was Joan. She was
Joe.
Yeah. She was sound. I liked her.
Yeah, and she said, her son.
There's a message for you. And obviously the teacher goes off, and this friend of ours goes ball bag and hangs up. Next thing you know, she comes storming in, and she's going through the absent list, thinking, right, you had a Scottish accent, and completely not realizing that it was us in that classroom that had done it. She thought it was someone that wasn't present in the classroom.
I can't believe she didn't hear all the laughing and stuff. Right?
Yeah,
it was the stuff got thrown at the board as well. Do you remember? You used to just throw something at the board,
and then sit there,
and then the said person should turn around and look directly at him. And I remember once he threw trail mix at the board, and he had it covered on his desk. And he was like, "What? It's not me."
I remember we all had. This is about 2008. We all got the same Sony Ericsson phone, and Bluetooth was starting to become more common by this point. File sharing, and we all had a it wasn't pornography, but it was porn audio. It was the MP3 of a porn video, and we sent it to about 12 people in our classroom, right? And we started, every time she turned around, we'd play it from one phone, and she'd turn around, and when the heat started getting too much for that one person, someone from the other side of the room would start playing it, and the next thing you know, she's confiscating like 12 phones.
I remember one time she had like 12 people outside of that classroom just kicking everyone out. I think she had enough that day.
I feel like it was just me inside that classroom.
Because you were the saint of that year group. You were the saint of that class anyway.
I could do nothing wrong with her.
What did you do now? Did you stay behind extra long one day?
I don't know. I think it's because people said she looked like my mum. Do you remember?
That's pretty harsh.
Well, because we had similar hair.
Yeah, but still.
We had that. No, she didn't look like my actual mum. She looked like she could be my mum.
All right.
Because of the hair, I get you.
Yeah.
Well, here's this might go over your head a little bit, Niall, but my dad, like, my parents haven't been together since I was 3 years old, and because I was being so juvenile in science, especially towards year 11, we were a bit, well, maybe juvenile is the wrong word. I don't know. We were just
we were definitely juvenile.
We were definitely.
We weren't mean. We were just a bit reckless. Like the other year groups, they were mean. We just were more kind of had a bit.
I think history. That's where we took the cake, man.
Well, I'll talk to you about that in a second, right? So, obviously the teacher being a teacher does the only thing she can do when they're desperate, and that's to call up the parents for assistance. But she calls the wrong parent. She calls my dad, not my mum. See, if she'd called my mum, I would have been disciplined and told, behave yourself and just do what you're supposed to do. You've got a month left of school. Just get on with it. But no, she calls my dad, who is going through his crazy period at this point in his life. He's coming at the tail end of his like cocaine addiction and his alcoholism and all that. And I don't know what happened, but she came up to me and said, "Oh, just tell your dad when you see him. I'm sorry I woke him up."
I think I remember you telling me this back in school.
And I'm just like, she didn't need to say anything more. I was like, I already had a full picture in my head of what that exchange would have been like.
Your dad's got a thick Scottish accent, hasn't he?
Yeah, but like, he's calmed down now. Like he's turned his life around completely, and he's doing great now. But this was like we call it the lost weekend. Is a term used from John Lennon when him and Yoko Ono split up for about 18 months. He just went off the rails with his mate, and my dad did the same thing, but his lasted about 9 years.
Oh man!
From the age of 40 to 49, he was just up to all sorts, just trying to figure out what's wrong with him. Which later turned out to be PTSD from the army and other things. But he turned it all around. But that one memory just sticks with me. Like, oh no, like and less is more. It's like, tell your dad I'm sorry I woke him up. I'm like, don't need to say any more.
It's like, oh no, what parent did you call? Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Oh, you called that guy. He don't give a fuck.
It was kind of like the opposite with me, because my mum and dad split up when I was about 12, 13. And my dad moved up to Scotland. And they called my dad, and my dad's response was, I don't know. I got called in for bullying one day, and I hadn't done anything. And they called up my dad, and he was like, well, what do you expect me to do? I'm in Scotland.
Come down here.
I know this rumor's not true, but this made me laugh when I heard it, because I know what kids are like, especially in the school days, where like they'll hear a piece of information and they'll misconstrue it into something else. And the rumor is that your dad went all the way to Scotland, got told he was blind, and didn't come back.
No, he got told he was blind before he went to Scotland.
Yeah. When you told me the story, I was like, the way kids misconstrue information like that.
I didn't know that was a rumor.
I don't think that was a rumor. I think that was just a bit of banter.
Oh, right.
Someone just made that up about Niall's dad, Dan, man. That's how sick we were.
But the thing is, we take that lightheartedly, because it was banter.
That's what I mean. I'm glad I grew up in that. Because, like, do you reckon people are more sensitive now, or more?
Well, elsewhere, Corby's a very unique town with its humour and with its sort of it's hard to put a finger on it, but we have a very kind of cynical storytelling ability, and we were very self-deprecating. We're able to turn the mirror on ourselves and laugh. For the most part, we can laugh at ourselves. So when I moved to Weymouth when I was 16, I was in for a shock that people were a lot more easily offended by my tone of voice and my humour. It took a long time for people to like me. Most jobs I've ever had, they didn't start liking me until I handed my month's notice in. They started to realise, oh, actually, I get his humour now, but it was too late by that point.
Yeah, Corby kids growing up, you definitely have a thick skin because you're going to get the mick taken out of you no matter what you do, even if you do something good.
Even
Like-
if he is your best mate, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
There's
I mean, like,
no avoiding it.
it's like we'd take the mick out of everyone. It's like anyone when we played basketball, for instance.
No one was safe.
No one was safe when we played basketball. And do you remember that time? Sean got knocked out by a ball, just absolutely knocking him like square in the head.
I remember one kid during basketball in PE, like he tripped on a basketball and went flying into the wall, headbutted it, and broke both his wrists.
Broke his arms.
That's brutal.
Who was that?
I can't say his name, but you'll figure it
His
out.
second name, it begins with an L.
I remember who it was. I used to hate basketball in PE because it would just turn into people trying to rugby tackle me.
Yeah, that was me. It used to annoy me. I threw a ball at many of people for that, like, because you're dribbling and then they're just like they just rugby tackle you because they play football.
Yeah, and I used to pick the team that I didn't ever have to pass to.
I remember getting told off for that once. I remember it was like, I think it was year 11. It wasn't like a sports day because we didn't have a sports day, but we got into our forms and particular sets of people did like different sports and like obviously
like the interform and stuff.
Yeah, and
yeah.
I got chose to pick the team for our class, so I just chose 4 random people and a couple of subs. But when we were playing in that, I wasn't passing. I was kind of just doing mad layups and stuff, and then we got told off by the PE teachers and disqualified. Like, I was like, what? Because I'm all right at the game of basketball. That's pretty harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, it was quite harsh. I remember like something similar happening to me, but they scheduled it on like a day where I had like an ophthalmology appointment, so I had to go and like check my eyes out. I was like, no, I could only play like 2 games, and even then they told me I wasn't allowed to score. I was like, but it's a competition. Like, you're telling me I'm not allowed to actually score.
We should have just been coaches.
Yeah.
It's funny, we actually had sports day for the first 2 years of being at school, and then they just sort of cut the funding, didn't they? And it just
turned into
again.
An activity day.
Activity day.
Do you think it's because people getting injured?
I don't know. I just think it was so, because like when you think about how it was organized, I remember when we were in year 8 and there was that running track near the triangle.
Yeah.
And you're thinking the amount of money it probably cost just to organize all that, making sure the kids are safe, making sure the transportation and all that. We walked there because it was our estate, but a lot of money goes into it. And the head teacher at the time, I think he was a bit shady. He just cut and funding wherever he could.
What with the he always walked around with his little Nokia, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, and he had like a little Braille cream hair gel in him. And every time the year 11s at the time were nearby, like I remember him like getting all like red faced and all that because someone tried some shit.
He was making money though.
I bet he was cutting all that funding, keeping it for himself. Absolutely. Yeah. It was back our sports day.
Yeah, I remember that. So, yeah, I remember like the first couple of years we had sports day, and they were just like you do one sport and sit there for the rest of the day, don't you?
Yeah, and I was always doing cross country with asthma.
I remember like they used to like literally pull people to me it seemed like they just pulled random people off the street to do like assemblies, right? And there was one woman who was trying to do like a drug awareness, but like this was like on level with what was Ronald Reagan's wife called? She started the whole "Just Say No" campaign back in the 80s. But it's like that's not how it works. But she was in the same vein of that style of awareness. And so there's like 120, however many kids of this year group all sat there, and she's talking about how one guy took a hallucinogenic, whether it be acid, LSD, whatever it was, and he thought his hand was an orange and started peeling it. And us being 13 years of age, we just started sniggering amongst ourselves. And she got really defensive. She goes, "You think that's funny?" And I'm thinking, and we all just sort of shied away. But like in my head, I'm like, "Fuck yeah, that's funny."
I remember that assembly because she talked about a person that thought they were Superman and jumped out of a window thinking they could fly.
Yeah.
But now I think of Bill Hicks, and I'm thinking he should have took off from the ground. What an idiot! You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, don't get me wrong, like, I'm not downplaying the seriousness of mental health that is involved with drug abuse. But the way she's trying to force her doctrine on 13-year-olds who don't know any better, saying, "Oh, you think that's funny? Well, it's the way you told it was a funny story. You know,
she could have made a more frightening story instead of
yeah,
and a man trying to peel his orange hand.
You know what I mean? Of course, a 13-year-old's gonna laugh at that.
Fake tan.
Yeah.
Do you remember this one assembly? I can't remember what the assembly was about. I think it was like mid-year 10, maybe like going into work and stuff. And it was this guy, and he was talking about work, shaking hands, getting people up to shake their hands and stuff.
Like,
and
you had to have he says, you have to have your hand lower than theirs to show respect. And I was with a guy called I was with a friend called Alex, and by this point, like, I realized playing truant was so easy by this point, because he looked at each other and say, "Shall we leave?" And he goes, "Yeah, all right." And so we're going to this job fair thing, and as soon as he started doing that handshake thing, I looked at this Alex kid, and we're like, "All right, we're leaving," and that was it. We just walked out the gate.
No, but there was a part where he was like, I can't remember what he was talking about, but like orange and red and stuff come up, and obviously you know the redhead guy that was in our year.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
And he just got bright red, and he was like, yeah, like his colour hair, like tango.
I remember that.
Needs to be tangoed.
Yeah, because being tangoed was a whole thing back then, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And he just looked straight at him, and he was like, "You need to be tangoed, like this man's hair."
Jesus Christ,
what was the one teacher you could never forget?
What, in a good way or bad way?
Both.
There was the two brothers. One was a PE teacher, and one was a science teacher. I liked the science one.
Yeah, John and Sam Barker. Yeah.
Oh, I say the names. Fuck it.
Yeah. John was the Sam one. Sam was the arsehole.
Well, you know, as we got older, because me and Niall, I think, were in the same PE group, and towards the end, we started getting on with them a little bit better. Started getting a little bit easier to get along with in the last year.
I liked Mr. Grant a lot, like the PE wise.
I have a story about the PE Barker. He was, so in the lead up to the Paralympics, I went back to the sports hall beside the school, and I saw him a few times. And he was a really good cyclist for GB as well. He nearly went to Sydney Olympics for cycling. He was like one of the reserves.
Nice.
And he used to like blow off all the time to say like he was like really good mates with Chris Hoy and Bradley Wiggins. And he would turn around to me during the lead up. He was like, "Can I have a t-shirt? Can I have one of your Paralympic t-shirts, please?" Like really sheepishly. And part of me thought, you try to make fun of me all the time.
Yeah.
When I was a kid. But then I gave it to him. I sorted him out one. I did sort him out a t-shirt. But then he tried to make fun of me when I went back, because I was one of those guys that went and gave an assembly.
Yeah.
And I felt so awkward doing it, because they were like, "What have you made of yourself?" I'm like, "Not much. I play sport." And like I turned around to these kids and I was like, "You guys don't care, like, that I'm here." I was one of you guys.
Yeah. Speaking of memorable teachers, like, we tried this with Elliot, but we name dropped a bit too much. So we're gonna do this, so it didn't make it into the final cut. So we're gonna do the story again, right? So there's these two teachers that were both married. One was Glaswegian, the other had a very distinctive mustache. Right, he was head of year 11, the year above us, and the wife, the French teacher, because she had such a thick Glaswegian accent. Me and Sean were in the same French group in year 9, and she'd be like, "Right, kids, sit down, listen up, je m'appelle."
Yes, I remember she told me off. She walked past her. I was in science with you guys. I fell off a stool.
No, you didn't fall, Niall.
Oh, I got kicked off a stool. Do you remember it?
I was behind you now. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. That was
Did you
me.
Kick it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It comes out now. It comes out now.
I fell, and all I say is, "Oh, my bastard's in back."
I told Dan this last night as well. It's the first time I've ever heard you swear. She's like, "Niall Graham, how dare you swear?" And you just fell off your fucking chair.
I get called out, and I'm like, "What?"
Perfect.
But so the husband? What is the one line you can remember from him?
Oh, I've got it prepared already. Ready? You ready for it?
Yeah.
Wake up and smell the.
Wake up and smell the coffee, year 11. Those gates aren't there to keep the idiots in. It's there to keep the idiots out.
I mean, you could get. He was a geography teacher and a history teacher, but you could get him off the subject so easily just by talking about minimum wage.
Oh, wow.
He would talk about minimum wage for hours.
Yeah, I never had him as a geography teacher. I had I had two guys. One that shares the name with James Bond, and the other one was has a resemblance to Robert Carlyle. You know him all about?
Yeah.
So, and they were sound guys. I like them. They were good teachers.
Yeah, they were sound dudes.
We're getting really good at this sort of not saying names now. We've mastered it. I love it.
But James Bond was my form tutor the last couple of years, and
yeah.
man,
And
he was
he,
wicked.
and he had it pretty rough, I mean, I think he had like a brain tumor or something, and you had to go through. Luckily, he got through all that, but it was.
I think like by the end of year 11, he stopped caring because me and Joe would come in late, and he'd be like, "No, we'd skip a day. We were ill."
Do you know he played county basketball for Northants?
Well, when he was younger.
Yeah.
Really?
He was a really good basketball player when he was younger.
His form tutor all that time. He never told me that.
Yeah, we spoke about it when we were. Cause I never had him for a single class.
Yeah.
But because he walked past me, because do you remember when we were in school, we used to be able to get into the gym early, like at 7 o'clock to start playing basketball and stuff.
Yeah.
He walked past one day and he came in and it was just me in the basketball gym, and he was just like, "Can I shoot with you?" I was like, "Yeah, sure."
Oh, was he all right? Yeah, did he have a good shot?
Well, yeah, he missed quite a few times, but like,
I imagine. But
he had good fundamentals.
fair play. I didn't know that the whole time.
Yeah.
So there's one particular character you want to speak about that was in school with us. What name are we going to use?
Hugh Janus.
All right, Hugh. So this Hugh kid had a fake girlfriend.
Huge ass. Either one.
Huge ass. But Hugh had a fake girlfriend. And he was in our English class, but he was like the J from the In-Betweeners, but like he was a bullshit from day one. I met him when I remember being in reception at Wood Newton, and we went to East Carlton Park. Back then you could actually get on the train sculpture and play on it. And out of nowhere, he's like, "My uncle helped build this train." So I knew from day one he was an absolute bullshit.
The foundations were there from childbirth.
Yeah, and then obviously he'd say more bullshit things, but I never really interacted with him much. And it wasn't until like we all got put into an all boys English class that went on for 2 years, year 10 and 11, same group, that his bullshit started becoming more apparent.
Yeah.
If there's any bullshit stories you know of Niall, let us know.
I know so many.
So here we go.
I used to wait.
Remember his name's Hugh. His name's Hugh.
Yeah, I remember. Let's go with Hugh Janus here. I remember I used to walk to school and wait outside. The steps to go up to the sports centre.
Yeah, on the side.
Yeah, I used to wait outside that gate for one of our other friends, and Hugh would always be there.
That's gonna make me laugh every time.
I know it's making me laugh. I'm really having to think about it. And I'd be sitting there, standing there with him, and it'd be like a Monday after the weekend, and all I get was, "Oh, did you do anything over the weekend?" I was like, "Yeah, I went and played basketball. Played a couple teams." He was like, "Oh yeah, well, me and my gang, we had a few fights over the weekend."
This rings a bell. We'll carry on.
He was like, "Yeah, I'm part of the Corby gang, and we fight against, other towns and other postcodes." So I'm like, the NN17 gang, and
does he not know?
What year were we in at this point? What year was this? Because I remember postcode rivalry being a real thing. Oh, right, okay, it's quite early.
Then. The kid was 13 years old.
Because postcode rivalry was a real thing. It originated from London, like Peckham and all that. But carry on. Sorry.
Well, it became like estates, didn't it? So like Lodge Park Estate became something, and So this guy was like, he pointed out like a scar on his head, and he had like his head shaven over the weekend. Like one of the, like
just a mum job.
Exactly that, like a mum buzz cut. Like, oh yeah. I got this scar over the weekend. It just looked like his mum caught his hair. And he was like, "Yeah, the doctors had to shave my head to glue it back together. I got done in with a pipe." That's like,
I got done in with a pipe. 13 years old.
13. He's like, "Yeah, I'm one of the youngest people. I'm one of the youngest there.
I'm one of the youngest gang members."
And I don't know if you remember, but he had a boat in his drive as well.
Yeah.
I was talking to one of our other friends earlier, and he was just like, talk about the boat.
Talk about the boat. Go for it.
Talk about the boat.
He used to say he was like an international sailor, and this boat never moved.
Just all rusted.
It was always on his drive, and it just would not move anywhere.
Was it an actual boat? Was it just one of those like fishing boats?
See, I always thought, because I didn't see it until like later. I always thought, like that episode in Friends where Joey's pretending he's got a Porsche, and it's just like boxes under a cover.
Yeah.
I thought it was like going to be like that, but there was a boat in his drive, but I never saw it move.
So do you know much about the fake girlfriend story?
I do know a little bit about it. But...
All right, because you weren't in our English group, were you?
No.
This all started off because I've always been quite naive. I'm getting better in the last few years, but I always kind of gave people the benefit of the doubt whenever they told me something about themselves. So this is like year 10, and he says, "Oh, do you want to see my girlfriend?" Right? And he gets his phone out and shows me a photograph of this girl. I'm like, "Oh, good for you, mate." I nearly said his name there. Good for you, mate. Right? And someone in my Hugh. And I was like, "Good for you, Hugh." And next thing I know, a couple of weeks later, I'm in my form class, and there's another kid there. He was cool enough kid, and he was telling me, he said, "Oh, did Hugh show you his?"
You almost fucking.
I know. Right, so did Hugh show you his fake girlfriend? And I was like, what do you mean? No, sorry, did he show you his girlfriend? I went, yeah. And he goes, "Do you know she's fake?" And it's like, really? And then he started explaining, like, well, think about it. It was none of the photographs had him in it. It was just rando photographs of some girl. Next thing you know, word starts spreading around with some of the more of the harder kids in our English class and year group who just sort of latch onto it and and they just don't let it go. And obviously, because he's quite a timid guy, he would never really act on it. He would just sort of take it on the chin. But one kid in our English class said, "Aha, that's funny. That's funnier than Hugh's fake girlfriend." And he's like, she's not fake. So push comes to shove, and he's like, "Oh, fine then, Hugh. Why don't you give her a because she was meant to be coming to our school, even though we're like halfway through year 11. It's like she's meant to be coming to our school." But he's like, "Oh, but it ain't working out, so she's just going to not bother." And one of the kids was like, "Well, give us her number." So at the end of English, we all stand outside and we huddle over as one of the kids rings this number, and it goes straight to voicemail after a couple of rings. And we turn around and Hugh's vanished, and we just burst out laughing. That's when it all came crashing down around him. Poor guy. But this is where it gets worse, right? So this other kid I was telling you who told me about Hugh's fake girlfriend, he becomes a little detective. Like, he's all over this, man. Like, he's going through MySpace and Bebo trying to get to the bottom of this. And it turns out that this girl actually existed, but didn't have the name we're being told about it. And we're saying, "Oh, Hugh, this girl's using your girlfriend's photographs on her MySpace and all that." And anyway, it ends in disaster where the girl catches on to what's going on. It's like, "Why have you got pictures of me on your MySpace? I'm contacting the police," or whatever it was. And that just when it all came to an end. But by this point, we were like a week away from leaving school. But the story just cracks me up. So it's like, it's one lie that got out of hand.
Yeah, I got told a story about Hugh as well. So this is I wasn't there, but do you remember Storm, the nightclub?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Hugh bumped into a few of our friends and just didn't leave them alone the whole night. And they were like, "Who are you out with?" He was just like, "No one. Just thought I'd come out."
On his own?
He was just out on his own as like an 18-year-old kid. Just like, I just thought...
We must have been 16, 17 then. We weren't old enough to get into Storm.
A lot of underage people go into that club, wouldn't it? That's why I got shut down in the end. I went there when I was 17.
Oh, you'd be massive snitches right now.
Not really, because the place got closed down now.
I probably why it did. When I was 18. I never went in when I was before because I was so afraid. Because I don't drink or anything. You can't take away like the Dutch courage. So I was like, no, I'll get found out because I had a proper baby face. I might have been told, but I was so baby faced.
But I remember another.
Oh, you did it! Oh, I've got to edit out.
Oh shit!
That's all right. I'll fade it out.
Hugh, fucking. We seen him in Wetherspoons. We must have been like 21 at the time, maybe. Yeah, 21. I'll say 21. But I didn't even recognise him, to be honest. It's been so long, and like I had him in one lesson, and he just talks shit all the time. So you don't really remember people like that. But he comes up to me, he's like, "Oh, Sean." I'm like, for like 2 minutes, I'm like, "Ah, you." And then, and he's like, "Yeah, I've just come back from my stint in the Navy." I was like looking at him, and I was like, and he looks like no. But anyway, I was like, "There's no way he's been in the Navy for like 4 years. There's no fucking way." Just goes back to the fucking him telling bullshit, right?
Do you know what's funny? I remember I was about 22, and I bumped into him at Leicester train station.
Why do we just keep bumping into him?
And
He's got stories ready for us.
He was actually with a girl. He
Oh,
was with
fucking
a girlfriend at the time, and he said, "Yeah, I'm just finished my stint in the army."
That was the army this time. All right.
It's like
so he went from the Navy and downgraded to the army, or is
within 2 years.
This man's got more. This guy's got more credentials than Mr. Ben.
He's got fingers and more.
I think secretly he's Captain Birdseye.
No, his real identity is James Venables.
Or Adam West. He's Adam West.
Yeah. He's just like the worst person in the world. He's part of a witness protection program. He was actually Henry. He's actually Henry Hill.
He just has to make these new personas every few weeks.
Yeah.
I know they found me.
He just goes for that generic Glaswegian junkie look. You know what I mean? Oh man. Well, we're coming towards that 2 hour mark. So if there's any last thing you want to say? What's your favourite film?
Oh yeah. Customary question.
It's a little segment we do at the end.
Favorite film? Remember the Titans.
Okay.
Titans.
Not familiar with that one.
Denzel Washington. And there's a few really good actors in there as well. It's an American football film about how they integrated high schools in the 60s to a black and white school. Like they were separate schools, and then they got put together, and their American football team got put together, and how they got to like the state championship and stuff like that. And it was like a brotherhood story sort of thing. It's really good. Or customary, being a sports person, it's like Coach Carter is always up there.
I enjoy Coach Carter. I do like that film. It was on Netflix. It was on Netflix recently, and straight away I was watching it.
You look at how many people from Coach Carter have gone on to have really good careers, like Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
What's the guy from?
He was Mexican dude.
Teo Cruz. He was in Reaper, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And then did he go to? Was he in Ant-Man?
I'm not sure.
Sorry, who again?
Teo Cruz.
It was Teo Cruz. So.
So I thought you were saying Terry Crews. I thought I'm pretty sure he would have been a bit too old for that role back in Coach Carter days. He's doing white chicks around that time, wasn't he?
Terry Crews in high school.
I tell you who was in Coach Carter that goes unseen is the small black woman Octavia.
Yeah.
She was one of the just like a few small lines, but she's like one of the biggest actresses now.
It's interesting to see because we were talking a lot about Scary Movie 4 in the last podcast, and Kevin Hart being such a minor role in those days, to see him what he's the global giant that he is now. Giant used loosely, but in terms of stature,
Which one is You Wake Up Dead? Is that Scary Movie 3 or 4?
I think that might be 4 because I think those jokes were just one movie, wasn't it?
Because
Scary Movie 3 was The Ring, The Matrix. What was the other one they done? I've lost it now. It was definitely The Ring. It was Signs. Number 4 was War of the Worlds, Saw, and
Saw, because it had Shaquille O'Neal in, didn't it? Kobe.
What was when they took the Mickey out of the one? Oh, what's it called? The M. Night Shyamalan one where they're in the village. The village. Just pick the out of it. I think that's it.
Oh.
And they're in that town hall having a meeting. And like, I concur.
Pee vagina. And what's funny is that the actor playing that role is he's a really funny guy. Something Elliot, I think his name is, and he's in like Something About Mary. He's in a lot of Farrelly Brothers movies. And he's just a funny guy.
Sean, do you remember when I was So I am one of the biggest wimps when it comes to horror films. I don't watch them.
Oh.
You
yeah, I
remember
remember.
we were around at a mate's birthday for like a sleepover, and everyone was like, "Oh, should we watch Saw?"
Saw 1 all the way to like 3 or something.
Well,
did
no, I
like
think it was.
horror
I think it was only one film. I think it was only one film, and I hate horror films. I can't stand them. I don't like the jumpiness, like the gore and everything like that. I don't mind. It's just the jumpiness I don't like. Um, and I sat on my phone the whole time playing a tennis game through like a 4-hour film, and then my phone died, and I just stared at my phone.
No, that part I didn't know.
I was like, I will not look at the TV screen. I will not.
Just staring at your black screen.
Not
It was like,
staring at my screen.
You poor guy.
I didn't know that. Bless
Yeah.
you. And then we
Those-
put the fog on afterwards.
Yeah.
We
then I
still
was
staring at the fucking
I
screen.
was trying to sleep
Oh,
because
right.
we went to watch Hot Fuzz the next day, didn't we?
Yeah.
One of my favorite films, Hot Fuzz. That and Vice with Christian Bale are my
One
favorite
of the
films.
best films I've seen in the cinema as well.
Hot Fuzz is incredible. I think we got made to clean up the
Oh, shit,
the
yeah.
cinema
'Cause
after.
We had the popcorn, right? We were just like grabbing each other's popcorn and flinging it and lobbing the boxes. Like, we would get halfway down our popcorn and just go, throw the rest on. Yeah. Then the guy come and got me and Niall. Niall didn't even do anything. He come and got me and Niall, and he was like, "Yeah, you two clean that up." Niall was like, "I didn't even do anything." He's like, "So what?"
And then we quickly realised he was like a couple of years older than us, and we were like, we don't have to listen
we
to you, and just
walked
walked out.
I'll tell you a funny cinema story. So I went to go see Deadpool 2. And it was that crazy year where like it was sunny for like 3 months. It didn't rain for 3 months. So no one was going to the cinema. And I was waiting for a cloudy day to go see this movie, but enough was enough. I was like, I've got to go see it. And I smoked a joint before I went in, and I was really high. And I was just drinking like a large Pepsi. Loved the film all the way through. The cinema was empty. Had it to myself. But then by the end, like I needed to go toilet because I'm pretty, I mean, I don't know how big these, it's like 64 ounce or something like that. Just insane. I held it in the whole movie because I didn't want to stop watching it. I eventually go to the urinal and start peeing, but like it wouldn't stop. The piss just kept rising up. And in my head, every time I pissed in the urinal, I'm thinking, I wonder how much pee it would take to fill one of these things up. Well, I was starting to find out for the first time ever that I was starting to fill this thing. And just as it got to the brim, I stopped peeing. I thought, oh, thank God. And then the urinal decides to clean itself. Fucking piss just starts bubbling over. So I had to go find an attendant and just be like, urinal's flooded.
That's not very good. Fucking what are they called?
Urinals?
No. The people who work on plumbers. That's not very good plumbing. Yeah, fucks me.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a lot of piss, to be fair. It was a lot of piss. And then on top of that, it cleaned itself.
I got one of my, like one of like your most embarrassing moments. To me, I feel like it always happens in the cinema. I remember I went to see Endgame. We were away, me and Mary were away on holiday, and we just thought, oh, cool, I'll go and see Endgame quickly. And, well, like there was nothing we could do that day because it was raining, so we caught the perfect day for it. So we went and to see Endgame. It was like out for a week, and we just were staying away from like any social media that told us anything about it. And so we went to see it, and there was a kid at the front making these weird noises, and it felt like like the in-betweeners moment where Will is making fun of the people not like going at those people queue jumping.
Inconsiderate arseholes.
Yeah. The lights come up. I'm walking out the cinema. The kid's in a wheelchair and he's got cerebral palsy.
Oh, no.
I just feel so bad. I'm like, because I said during the film, can you not stay quiet?
Oh no!
Oh, no.
Well,
oh no!
No! Oh, Neil!
Oh no!
Neil! And I just felt like, oh, I'm a terrible human being.
I had a similar situation, right? So I was going to see, I think this was Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2, and I went to go see it on a Wednesday afternoon. So again, the cinema's empty, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen it with a buddy of mine because it's one of those films where you just have to watch it out of obligation, even if you're not into it. It was like, right, let's put this to an end, this saga. And there was a family sat next to me, and they're a big family, and they stank. You know what it's like when you get in a beach family, and the hygiene's an issue. And they absolutely stank. And anyway, so as I'm leaving, walking out into the foyer, I see my mate Benjamin, who again, big lad, lost a lot of weight in recent years, and he's done very well for himself. But I was like, "You watching Harry Potter?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah." I was like, sat next to his family, man, fat as fuck, and he stank. It was his mum. I just see her come waddling out into the foyer. I was like,
Oh, no.
"Oh, well, I hope you're doing all right. I'll see you later."
Oh,
Him,
man.
his mum, his cousins, they were just all. He was all right. His hygiene was fine, but his mother had a bit of a hygiene issue.
It's like one of those moments where you just want to go, just kill me. Just kill
Yeah.
me now.
Yeah. Now, do you remember, right? You might have been there when this happened, right? So I'm in school and I'm obviously really into my parkour, and I started doing like front flips on the concrete playground, getting the confidence. And I learned a trick called the wall spin. You know, where I jump at Clarky, well, I can't say names, but like he started doing it before anyone else. And it's where you jump at a wall with both hands like this,
Yeah, yeah.
and then you do a full rotation over your body parallel to the wall. And I just learned how to do that, and I was getting all cocky, and I was doing front flips, and the teacher just stopped and said, "Don't you do anything else, right?" And the whole playground goes quiet, and 400 kids are looking at me, and I'm like, all right, and I jump at the wall, and my bottom hand slipped, and I managed to make it all the way around, but I landed on my knees on the concrete, and I could just hear 400 people laughing at me.
Yeah.
And I just had to get up and laugh along with it, man. But I think I pulled a muscle underneath my the base of my foot.
What,
Painful.
that yard, when people congregated, was one of the hardest places ever, because it just formed a circle at all times.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember we used to go into school and they used to be like just throwing random stuff every
Cans.
day?
Yeah.
I had a potato
Can
thrown
wars.
There was a potato hit me. I was like, who? Like, it was the start of the day. Who brings a potato to school?
He's got a fresh potato.
Probably one of the kids robbed it off one of the food tech nerds. You know what I mean?
Probably. He's like, I was making chips later. Oh no, I'll lob it here.
Give me your potato, nerd.
What's funny is like we sort of like us and our friends all sort of congregated on the mobiles, and like
Mobile
you
crew.
weren't allowed on the mobiles, but none of the teachers gave up with us in the end. It became our territory.
Yeah, they'd come over. They'd be like, "We've been told to come over until you get off, but we know you're not." So they just turn around and walk back. Like, what could they actually do?
The kid who used to just stand with us.
Oh, the
Redhead one?
No, the kid in like year 7 when we were in like year 11.
Oh, Bulbasaur.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I remember him. We took him under our wing, man. He respected us. Remember, he'd just do whatever the fuck we told him to because he liked us that much.
Do you remember we made up a thing called jaywalking, where you just walk through people's like crowds,
yeah.
and we just make him like just walk through people.
And he would just do it, wouldn't he? Because he fucking loved us, man. And that was sick.
Yeah.
That's how cool we were. We took dudes under our wing.
Well, I'm glad we still got.
That's how cool we thought we were. We weren't cool at all.
We weren't cool. I remember in the MySpace days.
No, that's not cool, right? But we took a dude that was getting bullied under our wing.
Oh yeah, because he was getting bullied, wasn't he?
That's what I'm saying. We took him up the field and he hung about with us up the field and played footy and shit. And then
I remember one story.
Cool guy.
Well, actually, I'm trying to. There's like 3 stories that are in my head right now. I've got to
Look like
Bulbasaur.
Bald head as well, like the monk guy.
Didn't help himself, but bless him.
Go on, Dan.
Stories vanish from my head now. It'll come to me in a second. I'm trying to think now. Oh yeah. I'm just saying, like, I'm glad we've actually got a photograph documenting that era, because I've got one. I've shared it a few times, so it's always going to be there.
Isn't he?
Now.
Haven't we got a picture of him in it?
I think he might have been in it, but I think I remember the picture you're talking about, Dan, because it's like people don't believe me that I used to have like floppy mushroom hair.
Yeah. How come it went from blonde to brown? What's that all about?
Who knows?
What happened, man?
Well, my
You've digivolved.
I went from I can't remember what any of the Digimon were actually. But
no
Greymon, Skull Greymon, Bogomon.
Yeah.
I remember that they were my favorite ones. Well, you're not like Metal Skull Greymon now. You are.
Yeah,
you're that ultimate level.
I think it's because I wasn't out in the sun that much as like when I got older, because I was always indoor like playing sport. Because when I was younger, I think my hair was like sun dyed because I was always out in the sun because that's what we were when we were kids. We didn't ever go home. We just stayed out from.
Your mum would come out at 8 o'clock like, Sean!
No, my mum was one of.
You'd hear it from a mile away.
My mum was one of the best mums ever, because she didn't mind if I stayed out because she knew I never got into trouble.
Yeah.
But like
different. I was a little fucker.
There's another story that I've just remembered now about the mobile crew. So a former friend of Sean's brought a beer can with him, right? And we just started sipping on the beer can. It was like a can of Carlin, I don't know. And we just started taking photographs of each other sipping away at this beer can. Like, one can between three people.
Yeah, behind the mobile.
Yeah, we're just like, oh, look at us, 15 years of age, drinking a beer can. Like, we're so hardcore. And it was like, that's...
And then like the bell would ring, and then we'll be all drinking like pop and juice to get rid of the smell and that. Nothing. We didn't even.
You wouldn't get drunk from that between three.
We weren't even buzzed. It was just pointless.
Yeah.
But I know. I remember a time when he came up with his little muffin, come up to the mobile. Yes. And I don't know what you'd done, Niall, but something really pissed him off. And he was trying to go for Niall, but he was holding his muffin up in the air at the same time. He didn't want to drop the muffin. He was still trying to go for Niall. Niall was holding him back with like one hand. Like,
I don't know why. I think I just got on, like, it's just like someone just snapped with me, and it was just like, no. I was just like, what are you doing?
I remember a time, right, that I feel really bad for this. But I remember a time everyone was just jumping on me. I kept getting me in headlocks. But you weren't there, and I was like, the next person who fucking does that is getting punched in the face.
Yeah.
So Niall strolls over, right, and sees everyone doing it to me, thinking, oh, they're having a great time. He gets me in the fucking, I just deck him in the face. And I was like, straight after, I was like, I'm sorry, Niall, but you weren't there.
I turned around, I was like, what did I do?
I have to apologise for something, Niall, where I got these tongs over a Bunsen burner for ages, and I just poked you in the forearm with it, and I apologise for that.
That probably still has a mark on his arm for that.
No.
Go on.
Yeah. No, I've got a few burns from like cooking and stuff, but yeah, I remember that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
We used to be evil, like, to each other, but it was funny at the time.
Do you remember when I was getting piggybacked by you, and we slapped that kid that we mentioned earlier with the broken arms, and then he just tackled us out of nowhere?
Yeah.
Put me in a headlock. I'm like, I'm sorry, let me go. I'm sorry.
He was a big guy for a...
I wasn't going toe to toe with him, and it's like, that's kind of what
he just had that.
I didn't even slap him hard. I just kind of tapped him, but he wasn't having. He didn't see the funny side.
He had a goatee in year 5.
John, didn't you out of nowhere elbow drop a kid in the year below, and like collapsed his lung or something?
No. What I did was, like, everyone was rugby tackling each other, and then there was just that group of years, the year below us, the Bolts, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
And I just thought, like, no one was bothering them, but I just went over and rugby tackled him as the fucking dickhead I was. And, like, this was right at the start of lunch, and he didn't get back up for the whole... He was just lying there the whole of lunch. And his mates were still standing there eating their crisps, like, looking at him like, why is he lying there still? Like,
you would never think of doing that these days.
Nah, you wouldn't. Just
things change as you get older. Things change.
Too much effort.
Yeah,
well, anyway,
I'm not just going to go to the shop and rugby tackle someone.
Yeah, you find out very quickly there's consequences when you're out of school.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going to have to wrap this up now, I'm afraid, because I've got to shoot on soon. Anything that you want to plug? I know you want to plug Don't Need Eyes to Cook on Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, I only do that as a bit of fun. So
yeah, you never know.
Anyway,
we'll follow you. At Don't Need Eyes to Cook, is that just Instagram only?
Just on Instagram for that one. Yeah.
Cool.
I can't be bothered with anything else.
All right, and best of luck with your kid. As it said, next month he or she's due.
15th of April is due date, so could be later. Yeah.
Well, this podcast should be up on Monday evening,